Hey, welcome to Wellteam. I'm here today with a good friend Russell Varley. Russell's got an amazing background in HR, spanning some big organisations and some smaller organisations. What I really like about Russell is that he's very down to earth, he's a straight talker, and he's got a huge amount of experience. How you doing, Russell?
Good, Troy. Thank you.
We were just chatting before, and Russell and I were talking about, what it takes to survive these days in the corporate world between the ages of sort of 40 to 60. And Russell, what would your advice be to somebody in that sort of age bracket, thinking, I'm going to spend my time 40 to 60, earn my money, and live that hugely independent later life?
I think you probably have to start thinking that the corporate environment these days has moved from 40 to 60 to probably 35 to 55. I think a lot of people, by the time they get to 60, and if you've had 10 years in a corporate role, you're probably ready to be tapped on the shoulder and moved on, or they'll try and find some alternative role for you, or you will feel isolated in your job. So probably being proactive at that sort of 55, 60, getting towards 65, start thinking about what the future might look like and start having a plan, because if you don't, the next minute you will get your tap on the shoulder, you'll get the check from the company, and then you're left wondering, what do I do next? And at that age, probably in that sort of, let's say, 55 to 65 year age group, it gets harder to find those next roles in corporate. So by having a bit of a plan that may result in you thinking that you could go out and do some consulting, you could do contract work, or things that are outside your normal remit, but you weren't born this old. You actually have a lot of knowledge and experience that people value. They just may not value it in a full-time job in that space.
Yeah. And because I always think that I'm going to be immune to these things. I always think, no, look, I'm a high performer. I've studied hard. I've done my MBA. I work long hours. I work long days. I give 100% to my job. Surely that won't happen to me. I would be fine, wouldn't I? I'd be able to just cruise through to 65, choose my retirement date, and that'd be perfect.
Yeah, you're dreaming. I think if you play in the corporate space, and it's not everybody, there's a lot of people that work for small family companies where maybe there are children coming through the business who want to see the direction of that private company go in a different way. In the corporate world, it's a new managing director or CEO that walks in and wants their own team of people. And you may not fit the criteria of what they are looking to do.
Yeah.
So,
So don't take it personally. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you can't, because you can't sit there every day wondering whether someone's going to tap you on the shoulder. Importantly, I think you've got to think about always being organised in a way. And what I mean by that is always thinking that if this was to happen, I could do X. If this was to happen, I could do Y. You can be lucky and be made redundant, and the next day you get another job in the corporate world, and you bank the big check, and then you just keep on working. But I would suggest, from the amount of people that I talk to post their corporate life, most people have to accept that the big salary that you were on has actually changed. The salary has come down from where you were, but you may be at that point in your life where that's not so much the issue. I went out consulting, and I sought tax advice from an accountant that effectively was able to, in a way, maintain a fair bit of the salary I was on, but it was all structured differently.
Yeah.
You're in a family trust, you're in those sorts of things, and I'd always thought that probably by the time 55 came around, employers would be saying, thanks for your contribution. But there were always a lot of smaller businesses out there that were looking for the knowledge and experience that you might be able to bring to it.
Yeah. Excellent. And I think that's great advice. We often think about our working life as retiring at 65, but something intervenes, and we've got to be planning for that. And we were talking before about looking for other things outside of just your working life where you needed to have your interests, because if you just put all of your eggs in that work basket, that can be a real challenge.
Yeah, I think you've got to be ready that when you aren't working, that you actually have a bit of a plan. And in our discussion, I think financial security is what most, I'll call it males, not disrespecting females, just that most males probably have not thought about that as the hunter and gatherer out there in the big wide world. But then once you get to that point, making sure that you're not going to go home and stress all night and every day about how am I going to pay the bills, what do I do next, how do I pay off the mortgage, etc. Go and spend a little bit of money and get some financial advice. There are lots of great financial advisors out there. There's a few shonky ones, but that's life. There's a few shonkies in all sorts of elements of our life, but go and get that bit of financial advice, and surprisingly it'll take a lot of the pressure off you when you get to that point of I've got to go down to a fixed income.
Yeah. And we were talking also about this notion of people planning for when they retire at 65, then they're going to start to do all of these amazing things in their life. They put off the walking holiday in Spain at 75. They're going to go and walk the El Camino Trail or something like this. What would your advice to them be?
Do it early.
in Spanish.
Yeah, in Spanish. Do it early. I look at people and have travelled overseas, and I've seen so many people go to do a tour on a bus at 70 odd years of age, and half the time they don't get off the bus to go and see the actual thing that you've gone to go and visit, because they're just a bit older, a bit frailer, can't climb hills, can't do sorts of things. So my view, as I've looked at what I do for the next 10 years, is plan what 65 to 75 might look at. Then the next chunk is 75 to 85. And if you're past that date, you're doing really well. So organise, first thing, if you stop work, go out and get your health in order. Go and get fit. Go and swim, walk, do whatever. Try and keep the weight down. Get out there and do things. And I can tell you, if you own a house, there are so many things around the house that you need to do. You can put that into your plan. If you've got kids that live somewhere else, you've got to put the travel bit into your plan. But, probably 65 to 75, I still think you can go overseas, go and do trips and holidays. But by the time you've hit 75, that's not something that you're really going to be able to do.
Yeah, and so if we think about that corporate life now, when people at the age of 55 are starting to top out in their corporate earning capacity,
yep.
And so really we should be trying to look for more flexibility or more opportunity to be living life earlier, potentially, rather than leaving everything until later.
Yeah, because when you think about it, if you, let's just say you finish around 60 or 65, you've got 10 to 15 years of physical health and well-being and mental agility, and you can have lots of things in your family life that might not set you up for living a long time.
Yeah, the genetic stuff.
Genetic
That's
stuff,
right. You know, you look
that
back
can impact on your life, but there is, you can live a really great, happy life without there having to be a bloody six-figure income and all sorts of stuff. You've got to actually work out what you can manage, and the one thing that I've really had to adapt to is there is now, by putting all your money into superannuation, there's a fixed income that's got to be there until you're 85, and it's not the income that you had while you were working in the corporate world. So change the way you do things, plan what you need to do, get that bit of financial advice, keep healthy, make sure you're doing exercise, making sure that you're also keeping up contacts with friends and colleagues. Go and have a coffee, go and have a lunch, do the sorts of things that keep you mentally aware, and get out there and do the stuff around the house, do the stuff with your wife or your partner, whatever it happens to be. Always be tending to doing stuff, but with financial constraints, because unless you've got sort of lots of millions of dollars piled away, and that that you can spend $300,000 a year for the next 20 years, well, that's all fine, but there's not too many of us in that space. So.
Yeah, perfect. Good on you, Russell. Look, thanks very much. I appreciate your feedback and your advice. I trust you, and I know you've got the best interests of anybody listening to this at heart out there.
Absolutely.
You've got nothing to gain from any of your knowledge. It's you're on the other side of the HR thing now, so you're giving this away to benefit people, and I really appreciate that.
No, it's certainly different as you transition off to retirement. It's a different world, but never be afraid of it, and I'm really starting to embrace it and enjoy.
Yeah, good on you. Well, there we go. Russell Varley, legend, a Wellteam member too, I might add, which is fantastic. So he's right behind all that we're doing here at Wellteam. So if you haven't done so, get on board one of our programs, sign up as a member for Wellteam, go to wellteam.me, even just subscribe on the homepage so that you can get all of our latest content when it comes out. Take care out there and go well.
Thanks, guys.